And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian Renteria, and hello, this is the first episode of the new year. This is, of course, the Movie Pit Podcast, where we talk about some of the big breaking movie news items of the week. We spotlight one big trailer of the week, and we talk about the movies that are out in theaters and streaming for all your viewing pleasures. Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been more than a minute, really. Hi, everybody. This is the first podcast of the new year. It's also the first podcast in a while. I apologize for that. That was not my intention to leave you guys hanging like that. And I am very sorry for that happening. That said, this is the Movie Pit Podcast. It's a new year. It's 2023. We're on the road to episode 200 of these weekly roundup episodes. There's obviously more than probably 200 episodes of the podcast. But in terms of weekly roundup podcast, which is how I count the episodes, even though I should count the episodes, all of them in order, I don't, because I'm weird like that, and I want to make my life a little bit more difficult. We are on the road to episode 200. I don't have anything planned specifically right now for episode 200, but when we get there, we will start. I will start telling you guys. But yeah, this is a new year, 2023. Hopefully, it's better than last year. I know a lot of my podcast colleagues have already started putting out podcasts, and a lot of them have done recaps of 2022 of last year. I mentioned, if you follow the Twitter, which little housekeeping, all the links to that, social medias and stuff are down below in the description/show notes area. I wasn't going to do one this year. This is usually the first podcast of the new year for me is rounding, doing a roundup of the year before, my favorites, honorable mentions, disappointments, stuff like that. I didn't do that this year because there was just a lot of stuff that happened at the end of the year. There was a lot of movies that I just didn't catch up on and didn't have time to catch up on because of what was going on with personal stuff, family stuff, and work, and all this crazy stuff that was happening all around the same time at the end of the year, which is usually where I do try to catch up on a lot of stuff I haven't watched, because a lot of the stuff that obviously came out at the beginning of the year or in the middle of the year, are all up on streaming services or on VOD or stuff like that, and then of course all the stuff obviously at the end of the year that I just haven't gotten to watch yet. So I didn't feel comfortable, or I didn't feel like it would be an appropriate list to just put out stuff that I haven't, stuff that I have seen and the stuff I haven't seen. Like, I haven't seen Babylon yet. I haven't seen Avatar yet. I haven't seen Tar yet. It's just a bunch of stuff. I think Tar's on VOD now, so I could probably watch that now. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that I haven't watched yet, and I didn't feel like it would be a complete list if I didn't do that kind of stuff. So I will try, obviously, hopefully, if life is very kind to me this year, hopefully it is a better 2023, is a better year than last year, especially with family stuff and everything like that, that it will, I can do one for this year's movies. But yeah, that was last year. Let's forget about that and let's talk about this year, because this year it's gonna be very different. This year I have some big plans for the podcast, because I feel like I finally need to do some big plans for the podcast. I feel like I'm not doing enough. That's just me being the creator of this podcast and doing this podcast for X amount of years now. I haven't been doing that. I think this is 8 or 9 years coming up in February. I have to double check that. I probably should double check that before I started recording. But yeah, it's gonna be like 8 or 9 years I've been doing this podcast. So with obviously breaks and stuff and things that came up that where I couldn't record and stuff like that. But 8 or 9 years, something like that. I'll get a final number next week of the podcast, which is crazy to me. But I definitely want to start doing more with the podcast, because I want to do more. I want to be a good podcast host. I want to, I think, I've built the audience that I had, and I'm happy with the audience that I have. I'm happy for all of you that are listening and that continue to listen. And any new listeners that are coming in, appreciate it. Thank you. Hopefully you will stick around for the ride. And obviously I intend for this year to be very, very good. So besides the weekly roundup of news podcasts that I will do, we'll be doing some review podcasts. I'm just going to call them review podcasts, because I feel like I think I call them reactions or thoughts. I'm just going to call them reviews. It's just way easier just to call them reviews. I'm weird. But yeah, I'm going to be doing more reviews, movies that are coming out in theaters, movies that are coming out in streaming, some retro reviews. So I'll be watching some older movies, not like, like the golden age, well, probably some golden age movies, but just older movies that have already come out, that I've seen, that I've watched, that I loved, giving second chances to. I'll be doing those some more this year, or ever for this year, because I didn't really do a lot of reviews last year, even though I told myself I would. But I'm gonna change that this year, so I'm gonna do a lot of those. Those will probably be like very quick videos. They're not gonna be like too intensive, especially editing heavy. There's gonna be kind of like one shots that I put out. And then obviously as I have more time, especially when the summer comes along, they'll get more extensive and stuff like that. But I'll be doing that. I'll be doing some. I'll finally be doing the summer series. I was going to do the summer series this year, but it didn't happen because this was the first summer that I really had off, that I really could enjoy for the last few years, especially that I've been doing the podcast. So I was kind of just enjoying my summer as it was. So I'll do the summer series this year for sure. I think I have an idea what I want to do with the summer series. I don't want to say what it is just yet, but I have an idea for what I'm going to do for the summer series this year. And of course, spooky season will return for the podcast in October. We'll be doing more horror reviews and rewatches and stuff like that. I'll be doing that. So, and then obviously once the end of the year comes, I'll do the list and stuff. I have something planned for the end of the year that I used to do way before I had the podcast, but I'm going to cross that bridge. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, in case, something can't happen or doesn't happen or anything like that. It has been done on other podcasts, but I want to kind of do it on mine again. I want to do it again because I had a lot of fun doing that, and I actually had some engagement doing that before I started the podcast. So I definitely want to do that again this year. Okay, but again, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because it's still way too early in the year to even talk about that and do stuff like that. I also want to do more collabs this year. I want to, do some more collabs of podcasts this year. I know that involves me reaching out, and I'm kind of a wuss when it comes to that, because I still fear rejection. But any podcasters who are listening, if you want to collab, I'm totally open. Really, I really am. But I know some of that will have to be from my end as well. But again, that's a me problem. That's not a you guys problem. You're probably wondering, when are you going to get to the news? I want to get to the news. I am. But before we get to the news, we got to talk about trailers, because that's what we talk about first here on the podcast. We talk about trailers. I've changed, obviously, trailer talk. There was a lot of trailers that came out this week. A lot of them came out kind of like at the end of the week. So all those trailers will be linked down below in the description/show notes area to go check them out. We're going to spotlight 2 trailers this week. Actually, no, I'm going to save that for the end, because we only have one real kind of news item that I want to talk about, because it is still kind of a news roundup podcast. So there is only one, at least at the time of this recording, there's only one so far, and then we'll get to the 2 trailers I want to talk about. So the one bit of movie news I want to talk about. So I usually do switch it around for any new listeners out there. We usually do the trailers first, and then we do the news. But in some cases, when there is a little bit of movie news items, or just not big heavy news items, because I was trying to kind of end it on the big movie news item of the week, we usually do that. And I usually do it like that. And then I'll do the trailers first, and then we'll do the news. Sometimes there's just a lot of big trailers that came out of the week. It's usually more of a trailer heavy week, so I will save the trailers for the end, and those will be the big movie news, the big thing anyway that we talk about, and then I'll do the news first. This is one of those cases. So we have one movie news item we'll get to, and then we'll get to the trailers. I'm only going to talk about 2 trailers. If you follow the Twitter page, you know that those 2 trailers are Beau is Afraid, and of course the new trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. But we're going to talk about news first. And the first movie, and the only news item that I have, at least at the time of this recording, is Gladiator 2. The sequel to Ridley Scott's much-loved film Gladiator is moving forward, and is now in negotiations with Paul Mescal from Normal People and Aftersun to lead the sequel. Scott will return to direct the movie, and he's not the only one returning from behind the camera. Costume designer Janty Yates and production designer Arthur Max are also returning to their respective roles as costume designer and production designer, which is pretty cool. Obviously, Gladiator was a very big success when it first came out. Jump-started Russell Crowe's career as a leading man, and got a bunch of Oscar nominations. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Oscar talk, obviously, with the award shows going on. No, we're not going to talk about the Golden Globes, because the Golden Globes are just blah. But anyway, back to the story. Reports say that Scott met with many actors, and Mescal became kind of a top choice after he and Scott had a sit-down meeting. And now if Mescal gets the role, he will play the role of Lucius, who is the son of Connie Nelson's character and the nephew of the villain of the movie, which of course we all remember was Joaquin Phoenix. A sequel to Gladiator has been talked about for pretty much since the first movie, since 2000, which was when Gladiator came out. But it wasn't until 2018 when Scott was seriously considering and mulling over the idea of finally doing a sequel. And then after Scott finished filming another period piece, Napoleon, which coincidentally stars Phoenix as Napoleon himself, he decided to take the plunge, and now we're getting Gladiator 2 on the way. No word yet on when the filming will start or when it will even get a release date, but really Scott's back. We got the costume designer and production designer back. We have a potential leading star. He's again still in negotiations. Paul Mescal. Normal People, which I have not. I don't know anything about him. I have not seen Normal People. I have heard nothing but good things about After Sun, which is a kind of I think it's an A24 movie that's been getting a lot of not a lot of, but it is getting some praise in the film festival circuit and, of course, amongst film Twitter. And I think Paul Mescal is one of the lead characters, or is the lead character in that movie. But yeah, there you go. Gladiator 2 is on the way. It's potentially getting a big up and coming star. And Paul Mescal could, he can profit off this. Like I mentioned, Russell Crowe wasn't really a leading man until Gladiator came out. So maybe that will do the same for him. Okay, again, only movie news item that came out that I thought was really newsworthy that I can really get into. So we'll do this. So that's it. That's the movie news item. At least the time of this recording. Obviously, if anything big drops after the podcast goes up, or even before I can upload this podcast, I'll break it in right here. If not, let us move on to the trailer spotlight of the week, or in this case, trailer spotlights of the week.
Coming soon to theaters.
Okay, so I want to talk about this trailer very briefly, because there's a lot going on in this trailer, and I have no idea where to even begin. So A24 released the first trailer for Ari Aster's newest film, Beau is Afraid. It was previously titled Disappointment Boulevard, and then when the first poster came out, it showed that they had changed the title to Beau is Afraid. And Aster is, of course, the director known for Hereditary and Midsommar, and everyone was wondering, is this going to be a horror movie? It is not. There is no indication that Aster is making Beau is Afraid a horror movie of some sort, even though the trailer starts off kind of like a horror movie a little bit. But then it kind of just switches vibes a little bit. So the movie stars Joaquin Phoenix, who is, from the trailer, somewhat reluctantly going to visit his mother. And it may not be the best relationship or the best childhood. It looks like we're getting different looks and different looks, and I had a word and just lost it. But different looks of Joaquin Phoenix's character. So we're getting him kind of as a teenager, so he has that weird de-aging effect. I mean, the poster is like the three versions of Joaquin Phoenix. It's him as kind of like this teenager almost. It's him as the Joaquin Phoenix that we see, that we know. And then it's the Joaquin Phoenix under very heavy old man makeup. And we get all three of those versions of him in the trailer as well. We even get the opening of the movie, or the trailer rather. It's Joaquin Phoenix. It looks like he's a little bloodied. He's sitting on what looks like maybe like a yacht or like a beach club or something. And he looks over and he at one side, and then he turns his head again, and it's the kind of the teenage version of his character. I'm assuming he's Beau. So yeah, it's definitely, again, very weird. And then Phoenix, after some reluctancy, and talks to his mother on the phone, he runs out of his apartment, and it looks like looks like the city is in chaos almost, and he's like running around. There's like stuff going on, and then he runs in the middle of the street and he gets hit by an RV, and then he wakes up and he's in bed by the people who hit him, and he's wearing like an ankle monitor, and it seems like the people aren't gonna let him go. So then he kind of like breaks free at some point, and he's running into the forest and the woods, and then it just gets weird. It changes from like live action to some animation work. Almost like the Take On Me song. If you've ever seen that music video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Kind of has that vibe a little bit. And then there's like a shootout. People are shooting at him, and there's explosions, and there's time jumps again. We see the three different versions of him. Yeah, it's really weird. So it's the movie is kind of like this story of Beau going to his mother, and the spontaneity. I don't know. Spontaneity is not the right word. Just the weirdness of him going and trying to get to his mother. The journey, the odyssey, as it was put in some of the reports that I saw. It's out there. It's an out there trailer for a potentially out there movie, which of course A24 is known for doing. It's also what Ari Aster is known for doing. And again, there is no indication this is a horror movie at all. It's not a horror. I think they're not describing it as a horror movie at all. Hereditary, Midsommar, obviously very big, heavy-handed horror movies. This is not. So it'll be interesting to see Ari Aster, taking on a different genre that we know him from, but still keeping his out there, niche, if you will, of filmmaking. It's crazy. I don't know how to describe it. When I first saw the trailer, because I've seen the trailer just a couple times now to try to get a grasp of it. It's giving me, when I first saw it, it kind of gave me Welcome to Morrowind vibes. And that's the Steve Carell movie that came out a handful of years ago, where he creates or he does like pictures with like dolls and stuff because he's like dealing with PTSD, which itself was based off a documentary, but it kind of gave me those vibes a little bit. I don't know why it gave me those vibes, but it did. It gave me those vibes when I first saw the trailer, and then I saw the trailer again. I was like, not really. This is giving me something else. I don't know where to go off from this, but we'll see. Nathan Lane, Patty LaPone are co-star in the movie. I think it was them who play the couple that hit Joaquin Phoenix with the RV. Parker Posey's in there as well. I don't think she's in the trailer. I don't think she plays the mother. I think someone else plays the mother. I think it's Zoe Lister. I think that's who it is. I know she's in the cast, and I think that's who it was who was playing his mother, or at least the teenage version of his mother. I don't know if they're getting someone else to play the adult version of his mother. It is Ari Aster. Who knows what could happen there? But Beau is Afraid is coming out later this year on April 21st. I'm sure we'll be talking more about this once the movie comes out, maybe even once another trailer comes out. We'll see. But there you go. All right, but the big trailer that came out this week, the one that everyone was talking about online, is of course the new trailer for the highly anticipated Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Yeah, everyone had an opinion on this. Everyone was talking about it. Besides showing us more of the quantum realm, which is really cool, the trailer gave us more of Jonathan Majors' King, the Conqueror, and it continued the trend online of saying that Ant-Man isn't making it out of his own third movie. They even teased it a little bit in the trailer, at the end when King says you can't win. And Scott, basically was like, well, yeah, I can't win, but if I can win, neither can you. So that's I think Marvel maybe kind of, already had that obviously in the movie, but seeing some of the theories online, they're like, let's mess with the fans a little bit and put that line in the trailer. I don't know. We still don't know too much, really. We don't know a lot about the movie. We can, take a guesses and theorize and stuff, but we really don't know. We know that Cassie, who is now played by Catherine Newton in the movie, creates a machine that of course ends up sending a signal to the quantum realm, and they all get sucked in. Our heroes all get sucked in, and when they get there, Scott ends up meeting Kang, who tells Scott that he can give him more time. And because obviously because I don't know if it was even mentioned online. Maybe it was and I just didn't see it. But we just assumed like, oh no, he can have more time like with his daughter. No, I think Kang's talking about time. I think he's talking about maybe sending Scott back in time a little bit, or even kind of messing with time a little bit so he can have time with his daughter. Because when he says that line, it shows him, Scott, holding up his phone, and it's an old picture of Cassie when she's, the little girl. The last time he saw her was when he was a little girl. And then the next time we see him is obviously in Endgame, because he gets stuck in the quantum realm during the events Infinity War when everyone's blimped away, and he comes back and, it's during when everyone's gone, and he sees his daughter as all grown up. Not as Catherine Newton, as another actress, but I guess we're not going to talk about that. But I think that's what he's talking about. I think that was a good way to kind of pull up the heartstrings and also pull on Scott to potentially not, necessarily, obviously Kang, not a good trustworthy guy. You can kind of see that he has this army behind him. So I think maybe Kang knows how to pull the strings a little bit and get Scott to convince him, because I mentioned a little bit in the last trailer when it came out, we talked about it, and it kind of confirms it a little bit here in this trailer that maybe Kang is tricking Scott into helping him get out of the quantum realm or get something that can help him get out of the quantum realm. Because in this trailer, Scott at one point says, "You tricked me." And he's also sending Scott to go get something. We don't know what that something is, but and we don't know what that something could lead to. But whatever it is, it leads to a very nasty brawl between Kang and Scott, because we see Kang in his getup, and then at one point Kang has like his sleeve ripped out, so obviously he's got to show the muscles off. It's a very brutal shot. It's a cool shot, but it's a brutal shot when you know what's going on, and it's inside Ant-Man's helmet, and we see Kang basically curb stomp the helmet. And the next shot we see is the helmet falling off to the side, and there's a big old hole in it. And Scott looks pretty bloody. He looks pretty nasty. We've seen, I think there was a shot or a promo pic that came out a while ago of Scott, kind of all bloodied. And I think it's because of this fight that he has with Kang. And it looks nasty, and it looks completely different from the other two Ant-Man movies. And because, the other two Ant-Man movies are like, fun caper movies, and, they're somewhat serious, but they're also very lighthearted. This does not look lighthearted. This looks very serious. And there's, ever since Comic-Con, Peyton Reed, the director, and even Kevin Feige himself have said that Ant-Man and the Wasp is a very different movie than the other Ant-Man movies. It is a very important movie. And obviously it is, because this is setting up Kang as the next big threat, because we know that this is going to set up Avengers Kang, the Kang dynasty. Kang is our next big bad, and they're starting him off and as an Ant-Man villain, sort of, that leads to everything else, because Ant-Man, obviously, Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania is the first movie in Phase 5, and it's setting it up for Kang dynasty. And it's also one of the only 3 Marvel movies that are coming out this year. The other 2, of course, being Guardians 3 and the Marvels, which, we'll talk about once we get to that. But that's pretty crazy that they've shifted the tone of these movies from lighthearted kind of action comedies to pretty serious. I mean, there'll probably be some action comedy and some humorous moments in there, but from what they're presenting, this is going to be a full-blown serious movie. So that's pretty cool. We also get a shot of MODOK, which of course is a fan favorite character. He looks cool. Of course, everyone has an opinion on how he looks, and there was a shot of MODOK standing behind Kang very briefly, and it looks like he has a human face. And it might be someone we know. I won't say who it is in case you missed it, or you don't know who it is, or you want to know, or you want to know almost nothing about the movie, just from the little things you see. Design wise, I know everyone's making fun of it, and I know everyone's saying stuff, but from the 2 shots that we see of Kang, one very briefly, or of MODOK, one very briefly, and then the main shot that we see, which is him, with like the helmet mask, I think it's fine. Personally, I think it's fine. Changes happen. I'm one of those people that's okay with changing stuff if it fits the narrative of the story they're trying to tell. In the case of MODOK, I think it makes sense if that is what they're doing, where like the whole metal face thing, maybe it's like a armor plate that he puts up over his face. Because if you don't know who MODOK is basically a giant head. He's a giant head because his brain is way too big, and it just made him just this big head of a thing, this big head of a being with little hands and little feet, and obviously he's floats around in a machine. And the MODOK is like a metal organism designed only for killing. That's what he stands for. Yeah, that's what MODOK is. So we're getting MODOK and we're getting Kang in this movie, and I think it's pretty cool. So there you go. Ant-Man the Wasp. I don't know what more I can say about the trailer that hasn't already been said. I think it looks really cool. I think tonal wise, it is completely different from what we've seen. And the shots we get of Jonathan Majors as Kang, it shows him as a real threat. Yeah, he's beating up Ant-Man. You could say he's beating up Ant-Man, but he's Ant-Man still, an Avenger. He is still someone that we have cared about, and we've learned to care about. And obviously Paul Rudd probably brings a lot of that in. But this is, he's not just like some villain who's gonna like throw stuff at you. No, he's gonna he's going to beat you up too. And he can't because Jonathan Majors is jacked. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania opens next month in February. We don't have to wait that long, guys. This opens next month in February, almost a month when this episode comes out. So we'll definitely be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania here on the podcast. That would definitely be one of the reviews I do for the year. So there you go. Those are your trailers. Like I mentioned, there's a bunch of other trailers that came out this week. They're all linked down below in the description / show notes area. There's one for Apple TV. It's like a heist movie with Julianne Moore and Sebastian Stan, I think, is also in there. It's coming out on Apple TV Plus. There's a couple of romantic comedy trailers that are down there. Like one of them is like Alison Brie's new movie that's directed by Dave Franco. That's down there. It's going to be that comes out next month on Prime Video as well. There's a new movie with it's kind of like a political thriller sort of. That's down there. And then then of course Ant-Man and the Wasp and Beau is Afraid is down there as well. There's a lot of trailers that came out this week, like I mentioned. All of them will be linked down below, so you guys go check them out if you want. Let us move on to the movies that are coming out in theaters and streaming this weekend for all your viewing pleasures.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
All right, so we're going to start off with the streaming movies. First up on Netflix, we have Doggone. This is based on a true story of a father and son who repair their fractured relationship during a forced hike in the Appalachian Trail to find their beloved dog. This, yes, is a true story. It's also, I believe, based off a book as well. Rob Lowe is kind of the real notable name in the movie. He plays the father in there. It's a dog movie. It's about a fractured family. It's about a father and son getting back together. We know what this movie is. We know what it's about. I don't know anything about the true story. So obviously going in blind on that if I end up watching this. But I don't think I want to cry in my house unless it's something else. Definitely not for a dog movie in my house. I'm not crying for a dog movie. Anyway, moving on. Next movie is a Hulu movie. This is The Drop. This is a comedy about a married couple who face a marriage test when one of them drops a baby during a tropical island wedding. Jermaine Flower and Jillian Bell are two of the notable names of that cast in the movie. I didn't know anything about this movie until I was doing the schedule for the month, and then especially for this week, and saw it. And I think I saw one promo for it on TV recently, and it was kind of like tail end of it because I was coming back from the kitchen and I saw it there. I don't know. Hulu just needs to do a better job sometimes of promoting their movies. I think Netflix too. Netflix and Hulu, all the money in the world, and you guys still can't promote your movies properly. That's saying something. I'm just putting it out there. That's saying something. All right. There you go. There's that on Peacock. Yes, Peacock also releases original movies. This one should probably be very notable because it is co-written by Kevin Williamson, the writer of Scream, the Scream series, except for the last one that came out and the new one's coming out. But he wrote this movie, he co-wrote this movie, and this one came out of nowhere. I don't think anybody knew this movie was happening, and especially not that it was going to be dropped, because they said this movie was coming out like earlier this week, or I think maybe even like late last week or over the weekend. They're like, hey, there's a new Kevin Williamson co-written movie coming out. It's coming out on Peacock. It's called Sick. It's the movie is the synopsis: during the pandemic, Parker and her best friend decide to quarantine at their family lake house alone, or so they think. It is a slasher by the man who, let's face it, arguably recreated the slasher genre in the early 90s in Kevin Williamson for Scream. This looks okay. It's obviously set during the pandemic. There's one shot, or there's one scene, like very quick scene at the end of the trailer where, depending on how the whole vibe of the movie is, could be really funny or it can be very cringy. Watching the trailer, it comes off as a little cringy, but I know what he was trying to do. Williamson and the co-writer were trying to do. There is that. I don't know. This movie just kind of comes. It's kind of hard to gauge a movie when it just comes out of nowhere. Obviously, Kevin Williamson's name being attached to this is kind of the big, obviously, selling point. It's on Peacock, so if you want to go watch that this weekend, there is that. Expansion-wise and wide release, we have The Man Called Otto. This is, of course, the new Tom Hanks movie based off the novel called The Man Called Ove. It's also a remake of, I believe it's Swedish. The book is also Swedish as well, and the movie ended up being Swedish as well. But Otto, played by Tom Hanks, is a grump who is given up on life following the loss of his wife and wants to end it all. When a young family moves in nearby, he meets his match. I don't know why I said meets. He meets his match in a quick-witted Marisol, leading to a friendship that will turn his world around. I have not read the book. I've heard my sister hearing the audiobook of it, and it's pretty good. My sisters read it, my mom read it, they all loved it, and I haven't seen the original film. I want to see the original film, but I haven't because I heard the original film was really good. But now we have this one with Tom Hanks, so I don't know. We'll get to see that. This obviously again is an expansion, wide release. It came out limited release last week. Also, a limited release this week. I believe it's a limited release because I haven't seen a lot of promotion for this one, especially The Devil Conspiracy. So this movie is about a cult that steals the Shroud of Turin for wicked purposes. There's angels. There's an idea to bring back Jesus. Yes, this movie is a little out there. It's a little crazy sounding, but that's what this movie is. I saw the trailer for it when it came out, and I was like, this can't be a real movie. This probably looks like a real movie. It could have some potential, but what they're presenting it as, not so much. But there you go. Devil Conspiracy, if you want to go check that out. Again, I believe it's a limited release, so there is that. There's I think they put it as a wide release, but I don't think so. I think it's a limited release. The two big movies, though, that are out this weekend, of course, the first one is Plane. It's about a pilot who finds himself caught in the war zone after he is forced to land his commercial aircraft during a terrible storm. This, of course, stars Gerard Butler as that pilot. Michael Coulter, a.k.a. Luke Cage himself, is also part of the film. He plays a convict who ends up getting put on the plane for some reason. I don't think they typically do that all the time, but he gets put on the plane, and then he and Gerard Butler have to team up to save the crew and save the passengers while in this war zone and everything like that. So there's Plane, and then the other big movie coming out this weekend is the one that I've seen promotion for everywhere and is still a movie I really have no intention of watching, which is House Party. I mean, I'll probably watch it at some point, but I'm not going to rush out to the movie theater and watch it because I have a bunch of other stuff to watch. Obviously, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, it's House Party. It's a remake of House Party. A high school student cleaning houses decides to host a house party in LeBron James's house while the NBA star is away. Obviously, this is a remake of the original House Party movies because there was more than one House Party movie, and this was supposed to come out. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to come out last year, and it was supposed to come out on HBO Max. But of course, the whole shift of HBO Max, a lot of their movies getting either canceled or being pushed back to this year so they can get a theater release. This is one of those movies. I don't know. I have watched, I should say, the original House Party, but it was a while ago. I watched it when I was probably a little younger than I was supposed to. But I watched it, and I don't remember too much about it, to be honest. But I don't know. I don't know. It's not doing it for me. I probably will watch it. It's a new movie. I always give movies a chance, but I don't know. I'm not gonna rush out to the movies to watch this movie. Nothing against the movie. It could be really good. I haven't seen anything about it really, but there you go. All right. So once again, your main movies coming on in theaters: Plane, House Party, The Devil Conspiracy, maybe a limited release, and A Man Called Otto getting expansion wide release. Your movies on streaming are Sick on Peacock, The Drop on Hulu, and Doggone on Netflix. That is it, everybody. That is the first podcast of the new year for the Movie Pit Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Whether you are a returning listener, whether you are a new listener, I very much appreciate it. No matter where you're listening to, there's a bunch of links down below so you guys can check out where you want to listen to: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all that good stuff. Anchor. I have set up a Good Pods account. I have not put anything up on there. Hopefully this will be the first podcast on Good Pods. If it's not, next week's episode will definitely be the first podcast of the week of the year or of over there for Good Pods. So I apologize on that. I'm still trying to figure everything out. So give me a minute. on that. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, all the links are down below. Social media, trailers, all that good stuff is down there to go keep up to date on the podcast and everything like that. So thank you guys once again so much. I hope and I plan and I will do my damnedest to make sure that plan that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast goes through this year. I want this year to be a good year for the podcast. I want this year to be a good year for everybody, for just not just you, the listeners, not just the other podcasters that I've gotten to know, for everybody. Let's make 2023 the best year we possibly can. It's already the second week. It's going to be the third week coming up. We can do it. We just got to put it in. We just got to put it out there. We just got to put it into the world. We got to manifest it, all that good stuff. If you believe in that stuff, we just got to do it. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I don't think there will be a review next week, but I will let you guys know. Obviously, if you follow the Twitter and the Instagram, I will let you guys know what the first review will be. I definitely want it to be this month. I don't want to wait until Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp will not be the first review. I promise. There will be something else that will get reviewed on here on the podcast. So yeah, keeping up. Obviously, follow the social medias to keep up to date on the podcast as well. All right, that's it. Thank you guys. Be good people. Be safe. Stay warm if you are in the front of storm like that, or try to stay dry. I know a lot of people over in California are still dealing with the flooding and stuff like that. So just be safe wherever you are. Make good decisions. Make good choices. Be good people. And as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movie!